Tonight, to send them back or not? It's a question many parents are grappling with as the first day of school creeps closer.
I've decided not to send my daughter to school. I feel like the risks outweigh the benefit.
A significant percentage of families have told school boards they intend to keep their children at home. Plus,
these types of reforms have already been tried and they haven't worked.
critics say a long list of recommendations aimed at tackling anti-Black racism in the Toronto police force missed the mark. And the search is on for an inmate mistakenly released from a Milton jail last night. Good evening, I'm Marivel Tarouk. We begin with new video tonight obtained by CBC News of the altercation between Toronto Raptors president Masai Ujiri and a sheriff's deputy last June on the night the team won the NBA championship. And a caution, the video contains profanity. In the video, 3 edited clips released by Ujiri's legal team, you can see the Raptors president walking onto the court after Toronto beat the Golden State Warriors and the deputy putting his arm out to stop him, checking to make sure he had his security credentials. You can also see Ujiri tucking his credentials back into his pocket as he approaches. The deputy is then seen pushing Ujiri aggressively twice, at which point Ujiri shoves back. This is the clearest video the public has seen of the incident, which has been before the courts, with the deputy claiming Ujiri was the aggressor. Well, back to school is only 3 weeks away, and Canada's largest school board is still working out the kinks. Everything from bus routes to washroom breaks. But now we have a better picture of how parents feel about sending their kids back. Natalie Nanowski has the details.
I've decided not to send my daughter to school because I feel like the risks outweigh the benefit.
Morgan Yermolidis works from home. Come September, her grade 2 daughter will be doing the same.
That's her little desk area there.
Morgan is part of a portion of parents who have opted into the Toronto District School Board's e-learning program. A survey asked parents if they felt comfortable having their kids in a classroom or if they wanted them enrolled in the online curriculum instead. The results came out today. For elementary schools, 71% of parents said they were fine sending their kids to school with current class sizes, compared to 29% who prefer e-learning. Numbers for in-classroom instruction went up to 77% when class sizes went down to 15 or 20 students. As for high school students, 83% of parents want to see a mixture of in-person and online learning, while 17% prefer solely online. Same thing goes for York Region. High school students, 20% of parents chose online learning, while 80% want their kids back in classrooms. Elementary school students, 33% of parents prefer e-learning, 67% want in-person classes. And the results in Durham were very similar. But some teachers don't want to head back to school if class sizes remain the same.
What this government is asking of all of us is not only unacceptable, it is frankly reckless and quite possibly irreversibly damaging, if not fatal.
The TDSB spent the evening going over concerns and possible regulations after the Ontario government rejected the board's plan over the weekend. Councillor Joe Cressy, who is part of the city's Board of Health, believes there are a few recommendations Ontario needs to consider.
Smaller classrooms, proactive testing strategies, including in those hard-hit neighborhoods in the city. And it also means considering a delayed start date.
The board still needs to go through a few steps before it comes up with a new plan, which could affect back-to-school numbers. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
An 86-year-old man has been charged with first-degree murder in the death of his wife after she was found dead in their Mississauga home this morning.
The evidence that was presented to officers and the paramedics when they arrived led them in the direction that this was, in fact, a suspicious death and not one that would be classified as a natural passing of a person.
Police responded to a call from a resident in an apartment on Kenneth Drive near here, Ontario, and Burnham Thorpe just after 8 this morning. The victim has been identified as 81-year-old Marion Wallace. Officers arrested her husband, Lawton Wallace, who is also inside the apartment. He has been charged with first-degree murder and will appear in court tomorrow. Halton police are now asking for the public's help after the wrong prisoner was mistakenly released. Officers say they were notified about the error by staff at Maplehurst Correctional around 11 p.m. last night. 28-year-old Amrit Paul Singh Ojla was last seen walking out of the facility. He's described as 5'10" and about 170 pounds with a slim build, black shoulder-length hair and a black beard. He was wearing an orange turban, blue Tommy Hilfiger tracksuit and a black backpack when he was released. Police say Ojla is facing 9 charges ranging from possession of stolen property to trafficking, and they warn if you see him, do not approach, but call 911. She lived and is now speaking out. Police allege her former partner hired a hitman to pose as a delivery person and shoot her with a crossbow. Greg Ross has more on her incredible story of survival and the search for the hitman.
Not only do I live with constant pain, but I live in constant fear. Fear for my safety and the safety of those around me.
Speaking on this police video with her face shaded to protect her identity, the victim of this heinous crime describes the moment she opened the door to a man she thought was a delivery driver. Security video shows the man holding a large box. Little did she know, inside was a loaded crossbow aimed at her.
In an instant, I was shot with a crossbow, fighting for my life while on the phone with a 911 operator. I thought I was going to die.
The arrow from the crossbow hit her in the center of her torso. Since then, she's undergone multiple surgeries and medical procedures. She says she has permanent physical and psychological damages.
To say that this has taken a toll on me physically and emotionally is an understatement.
While the man who pulled the trigger is still out there, last week police arrested another man they say was involved.
Investigators arrested and have charged Roger Jaggernoth of Mississauga. He is the survivor's ex-common law partner.
Detective Sergeant Jim Kettle says police believe Jaggernoth hired someone to kill her.
It's clear, due to comments made to the survivor by the suspect, that this attack was meant to end the survivor's life.
The victim doesn't know the man who came to her house that night with a crossbow, but until he's identified and captured by police, she will continue to live in fear.
Fear of large crowds, fear of being alone. I even experience anxiety from the sound of a doorbell.
Police are offering a $25,000 reward for information that leads to his arrest. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Police have released a shocking photo showing a 6-year-old boy riding his bike on the shoulder of a major highway in Hamilton. Police say they intercepted the boy yesterday at around 3 p.m. on Highway 403 after receiving multiple calls from concerned motorists. The boy was found within 7 minutes and thankfully was not injured. Cyclists are not allowed on Ontario expressways or highways, such as the 400 series or the QEW. Toronto's Police Services Board has voted to make some big changes to the way officers do their jobs. Taylor Simmons is looking at the reforms and why some are already saying they don't go far enough.
After months of calls to defund the police, a move from the Toronto Police Services Board. Today, they unanimously approved this list of 81 recommendations and dozens of proposed changes. Things like expanded mobile crisis teams, implementing body-worn cameras, increasing training on anti-Black racism, and looking at reallocating funding.
They need to understand that the public is past that. These types of reforms have already been tried and they haven't worked.
But Black Lives Matter Toronto founder Sandy Hudson says the report misses the mark.
We actually aren't asking for reform in that way. We're asking for defunding the police so that we can put that money where we can actually create safety in Toronto. If COVID has taught us anything, I think it's that we can create new services quite quickly if there's the political will in the interest to do so.
Black people are more likely to be struck, shot, or killed by Toronto police.
This all comes just a week after the Ontario Human Rights Commission released a detailed report on racial profiling. The organization slammed the recommendations today, saying they were never consulted.
In their recommendations, they're still sending out uniformed police officers with respect to mental health. And what we would have worked with them is look at different models. There are no specific timelines or deadlines that we can see with respect to the major issues. There are no performance measurements. There are no targeted outcomes. There's no independent monitoring system.
At today's meeting, the board responded saying the measures are part of a larger long-term strategy.
Yes, there can be consultation, but I think there are more than enough starting points that we can all come to some sort of agreement.
The board report acknowledges calls to defund the police, but says it can't compromise the service's ability to deliver its duties required by law. Taylor Simmons, CBC News, Toronto.
For the first time in Canadian history, the finance minister is a woman. Toronto MP Chrystia Freeland added the high-profile gig to her already impressive resume today after the resignation of Bill Morneau late yesterday. And that's not the only major move waiting in the wings for the Trudeau minority government. David Cochrane has the latest from the nation's capital.
The Honourable Chrystia Freeland.
After weeks of controversy, a moment of history.
I, Chrystia Freeland, do solemnly and sincerely promise and swear.
With that oath, Chrystia Freeland becomes the first woman to serve as Canada's federal finance minister. It's a move made necessary by Bill Morneau's abrupt resignation on Monday.
I'll be stepping down as finance minister and as member of parliament for Toronto Centre.
His exit comes after a week of stories quoting anonymous sources, speaking bluntly about the growing rift between the now former finance minister and the prime minister, a series of articles that made Morneau's departure inevitable and changes to cabinet necessary.
Moi, Dominique Leblanc.
So the other domino, Dominique Leblanc, who assumes the intergovernmental affairs role formerly held by Freeland.
Regardless, though, of how you play musical chairs, we still have the same corrupt and incompetent prime minister ahead of the same corrupt and chaotic government.
The opposition won't let Trudeau change the conversation.
It has been a privilege to work with Bill, and I wish him all the very best in the coming years.
As easily as he changes his cabinet. So Trudeau is hitting the reset button entirely.
Today, I have asked the Governor General to prorogue Parliament.
Proroguing Parliament until September 23rd, when it will return with a new speech from the throne.
As much as this pandemic is an unexpected challenge, it is also an unprecedented opportunity. This is our chance to build a more resilient Canada.
He promises a blueprint for a post-pandemic Canada that will immediately go to a confidence vote to decide if a government that has just lost a top minister holds on to power or faces an election. David Cochrane, CBC News, Ottawa.
I'm just really bad at working in my own home, so to be on campus would really be the best thing for me to actually focus on my classes.
Coming up, university students are trying to figure out what their school year will look like as September shapes up to be an entirely different kind of campus experience. That's coming up after the break. Homesickness and cafeteria food used to be the big issues. Now, living in university or college residence comes with concerns about coronavirus. Despite their courses moving to online, many students have to or want to live on campus, and administrators are struggling to find ways to minimize the risk. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson has more.
4 days from now, this high school grad will leave her parents' home from Montreal to start her first year at McGill University. All of her courses will be taught online, but she has still chosen to live on campus.
I know for a fact that I'm just really bad at working in my own home, so to be on campus would really be the best thing for me to actually focus on my classes.
But while she's excited, there are many unknowns. The residence she was initially assigned to was shut down because of its communal bathroom.
So I don't actually know where I'm going to be living right now. I probably will be living in a different residence, hotel style. It's all single rooms and they all have their own bathroom.
Uncertainty, anxiety, last-minute changes, all now part of the package for students who choose to study on campus. Here at the University of Toronto, students are only now finding out some of their courses are going online. The school is reducing the number of in-person courses, saying students will be informed sometime before the school year starts. That's just 3 weeks away. On the East Coast, 4 provincial governments established the Atlantic Bubble.
This is where we cook our 3 meals a day.
Students from outside those provinces have to quarantine for 14 days, like this Montrealer studying in Nova Scotia.
Not really allowed to go outside except maybe for a little bit of fresh air. My apartment is on the 3rd floor of the house, so I don't have access to a balcony or something like that.
But even with all those protocols in place, experts worry that much still depends on individual student behavior.
They're expecting to have the social component of life in residence, life away from home. And that's going to be hard to navigate during COVID.
Hana Mitsui Hot says her parents trust her to be responsible. One hard part will be saying goodbye in the 15 minutes families are allotted to move the student in and leave the campus. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
People who work away from home can face some unique challenges because of COVID-19. Mike Allerston and his family live in the Northwest Territories, but he works in Alberta's oil sands, traveling back and forth regularly on rotation. And each time he returns home, public health orders force his entire family into quarantine. The CBC's Kate Kyle has their story of living in and out of isolation.
I gotta work.
After 2 weeks of juggling work and childcare, Shannon Allerston says she and her children are ready to be reunited with their dad. Mike Allerston works in Fort McMurray, 2 weeks on and 2 weeks off.
Come on, Jojo.
They're used to this back and forth, but since the pandemic, these homecomings have gotten more complicated. The whole family has decided to self-isolate.
You try to get the kids pumped up, like, Daddy will be home tomorrow, like, they haven't seen them for 2 weeks, and then they start to cry because, oh, now we can't invite our friends over, we can't go to the park.
There's only been 5 confirmed cases of the virus in the Northwest Territories, no new ones since April. They're being careful.
It's kind of like an emotional roller coaster all the time.
I mean, the kids are small, we can't isolate from the children, or else they would never see their dad and spend time with their dad. And
with fewer flights, Mike drives 1,600 kilometers to and from work.
Waking up at 4 in the morning and driving right through till 9, 10 at night, just so I can get home to my family or get to work, right? So it's had a toll that way.
During isolation, the family tries to keep busy, like going for isolation hikes, playing games, even when Shannon is working.
Our house is not very big, so they're like running back and forth the kitchen and the hallway, shooting Nerf guns at each other. Well, I'm trying to read a report or, an application. So it's certainly a bit of a distraction.
Both parents agree there are positives too.
Just playing with my kids, I've been able to do a lot of things, building forts and telling stories, spooky stories, and wrestling with them.
I mean, just the snuggles in the morning, like we're not rushing to get everybody out the door.
When my daddy is home, I miss my friends.
Both Mike and Shannon worry about how all this isolating is affecting their children and what happens when school starts. They're preparing to send their children part-time.
It's just kind of sad to know that he's not going to get the same sort of access to education as the other kids. He's not going to get to see his friends as much.
They've inquired about getting Mike an exemption from having to self-isolate. On Friday, the family heard it may be possible if he can get tested in Alberta before returning to Yellowknife. Kate Kyle, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Bit of a break from the summer heat this evening. Colette is here with a look at whether we might need some long sleeves this week. Colette.
Thanks, Marivelle. Well, some cooler temperatures to kind of get used to and more comfortable air, and that's kind of where we're going to be for a couple of days. So just running a tiny bit below seasonal with our Wednesday temperature. So again, it's mild, it's nice, it's just a little bit different than what we've been used to, right? Hey, don't worry, it doesn't take long. By Friday, those temperatures are going to be rising. Not only will the temperatures be rising, the humidity will be going back up again. And in this period, as we're looking ahead, well, through to Saturday, we're also going to be seeing that sunshine with us too. So we've got a lot to look forward to through the period. And these were the daytime highs from today. In fact, in some cases, we did get up closer towards 25 degrees and then cooling down. A few isolated showers that moved through, brought the temperatures down a few points back into the teens before they came back up again. Looking ahead, though, for tonight, you see mostly we're going to have dry conditions up into cottage country, a few areas with a few little sprinkles. But overnight tonight, our temperatures are going to be dropping off because of the clearer skies that we'll be seeing. Sunshine to start the day off tomorrow. Back towards southwestern Ontario again. Pretty isolated. A few showers may show up. And then as we get into the afternoon hours, a little bit of lake convergence. We could see a few more showers there, primarily towards Lake Erie, not as much over towards Lake Ontario. And then into Thursday to the north of the GTA, again, could be some wet conditions, but Thursday sunny and dry further south. Overnight tonight in southwestern Ontario, the temperatures, again, a little on the cool side with your overnight lows around 14, mostly clear skies. And tomorrow afternoon, mid-20s here, tiny bit below seasonal, really comfortable conditions though with those lower dew points, of feeling good in that sense. Overnight tonight for the GTA, 13, 14 degrees for our overnight temperatures, and tomorrow afternoon, there it is. So still running just a little bit cool. So another day, somewhat similar to today. And then for Thursday, the temperatures start to pick up a little bit. 25, 26 degrees for our afternoon highs. By Friday, though, the heat is back on, so 30. The humidity starting to go up, so we'll start to look at humidex values again. 34, 35, really creeping up into Saturday. But look at the sunshine and dry conditions. At this point, anyway, it looks like through the period that it won't be till the end of the weekend. That's when we start to get into some scattered showers and scattered thunderstorms coming back into the forecast, Maribel.
Okay, we'll enjoy the slight cool while we have it. Thanks, Colette.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
Okay, before we go, we just had to show you this. The Toronto Zoo is releasing some adorable video of one of its newest residents. This baby red panda was born last month. It marked the first red panda birth at the zoo in 24 years. And as you can see, baby red is doing just fine. She's even starting to open her eyes. Red pandas are an endangered species native to southwestern China and the eastern Himalayas. Experts estimate there are only about 2,500 or 10,000 of the animals in the wild. So cute. That's our show for you tonight. Thank you for watching. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. Our 11 o'clock show is preempted by hockey. Have a great night, everyone.